Good morning. Hey, just making sure to show the disclaimer. I don't want any nonsense. Um, but good morning, everybody. I don't have a whole lot of time today, but we will get right into it. So let's see, we have 13 minutes until the market opens. Well, 12.5 minutes. I don't have a whole lot of time today. I do unfortunately need to take care of something at my daughter's school. I have a meeting in basically an hour and a half. Okay. So we'll talk about the SPY a little bit, go over what I think is very likely going to occur. Then we'll talk about our dated trades a little bit, go through those. And then if anybody has any questions about anything, we'll go over that. So we have this super important I always call it resist, I always get it backwards. Oh, it's too early in the morning. Support. We have this very important support at the 769.52. Okay. Now, I personally think, and based off of what I've been seeing in the pre-market and everything, I'm seeing a ton of selling through a bunch of different symbols. Very likely we're going to try to break that today, and very likely try to head to the bottom of the channel. Now, I'm going to delete some of these arrows really quick. We can keep that one. Sorry, my screen is sort of a wreck right now. Now, at the bottom of the channel here, for today is basically going to be around anywhere from that the really high 764 to, the mid 766. Okay, so if we are going to have that push down and the bounce, then very likely we do hit one of those ranges. So if you do see us pulling down very aggressively, and then you start seeing support building around that channel, then you'll kind of know exactly what to look for. Very likely we will be seeing a bounce back upward. Now if we don't bounce back upward, that's kind of where this previous arrow goes, is that the next support, which I don't want to draw it down like that, very likely happen over the next couple sessions, is at that 758.11. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Also, I feel a lot better. I talked to a bunch of people about what happened the other day. Um, Basically, I have nothing to worry about. Technically, I'm not a financial advisor, so I could sit here and spout off financial advice all day long, and I'm good to go. But I don't do that, so even better. Okay, so for the SPY, that's sort of my expectation today. Now I will get the call wall and put wall set up when we actually see the gamma open up. But I want to check QQQ. I need to change this to a support. As always, when a resistance gets pushed, it usually turns into a support. We can still mark this one as a resistance as we did reject that range. Now on QQQ, we still have this pretty gnarly um, inverse head and shoulders building. Or not head and shoulders, cup and handle. We did break out of the selling channel very, very slightly, but we're still very much so within that selling channel. All we have to do is adjust it very slightly. So for tech, it's still saying that we could still be seeing that selling. Now I'm sure the exact same is for semiconductors. This thing is looking very bad. We'll go ahead and delete some of the structure because no longer necessary. We'll delete that one as well. But I do want to mark, misclicked on that. Do want to mark this very large inverse head and shoulders we got going on here. Which can be very tricky, you know, because it's like the SPY looks like it's absolutely blasting off. But we have, you know, our major holdings, which is semiconductors and tech, that are heavily selling. We'll keep that support. And delete that one. Yep, that support has been breached, so we can target this one right here. So that would be our next target. Okay, so this still fits the bounds of, you know, very much so of what we can be expecting out of a inverse head and shoulders. I keep saying head and shoulders, cup and handle. Had a long couple days. But we're starting to see this head and shoulders building here. Which is kind of, you know, the exact structures we're looking for with this inverse cup and handle. We have the bullish structure at the bottom, being that inverse head and shoulders. I know it may not look like that, but that is a left shoulder there. And then we're starting to get our bearish structure. And on top of that bearish structure, this leads to an even larger head and shoulders. So semiconductors are looking pretty grim right now, which is a little foreboding, right? You have major bearish structure on QQQ. You do have this potential of a cup and handle being formed. So we'll just keep that marked out. Because technically that can be a bullish cup. So there's a dated position that I really like today, but it needs to pull down to my level. So we'll go over that in just a minute here. So we'll come back to the SPY in a little bit, but just again, so everybody's kind of on the same page, I do expect this to pull down a little bit today. Not exactly for bearish reasons, just because we did hit that day 2 upper Bollinger. From the day 2 upper Bollinger, you usually see downward consolidation. from that downward consolidation, usually you're going to be heading towards the 5-day moving average. So that's sort of the expectation right now. Now, currently it's at the 757.50. Very likely it'll be around that 761, 762 range on open. So I don't expect it to push down all the way to that today, but if it does, then that would be somewhat bearish because that would be breaking our buying channel here. I know the wicks are kind of sticking out of this channel, don't worry about that right now. Okay. I don't know why this keeps getting messed up after I zoom in on it. So, let's go to our other trades. The one that I'm looking at here is AppLovin. Okay. This could be an absolutely killer position because basically where we're at right now is all the way down there. Now on the weekly time frame and daily time frame, this is below our lower Bollinger. Okay, this is kind of exactly what we're looking for that mean reversion type trade. Now, I don't want to take the position today, even though it can be a very, very quality position to take. We generally see a lower low from that initial push downward. So we could be seeing a whole, additional $10, $20 to the downside before we really, need to be entering those contracts. But I do want to pull this up on screen. Hold on. So I'm going to... Good morning, Jared. Here's our trades from the other day. And market opens in what? In 35 seconds. Okay, so we still got time. So I want to add and I haven't checked the strikes yet. So we're just gonna put I'm thinking probably target one of these nearest resistances. So we have this resistance. So many selling orders coming in right now. Jeez. At the 576, we have resistances at the 622. So taking something like a 550, the 600, I think is completely reasonable. Let me just go ahead and look at the strikes on those really quick. So let's see, let's check November. They're a little more expensive. But you could always try something cheaper like the 600 strike because you're only going to be paying about, still expensive, like 650. I think ideally I'd be trying to target that 550, but it is going to be like 1100. Now, let's see if there's any ETFs for AppLovin. So give me just a second to look it up. Okay, so I'm gonna look that up really quick, but while I look that up, let's go ahead and look at some of our other trades. So there's APPX. Let's check that out. Okay, so APPX is a lot more reasonable. The contracts just don't have a lot of volume to them. You could take APPX shares though. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. Which I actually think I'll be trying to do tomorrow. So that's probably how I'm going to approach that trade. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our gamma and everything for SPY. Let's get that set up. We can delete some of this structure really quick because we already talked about it. Okay, so let me set up the call wall and put wall for today. These lines are arbitrary until I actually set them up, so just one moment. Okay, so the call wall is at 772. Put wall is at 771, but I'm sure that will change pretty quickly here. We'll check the gamma again in literally about 3 or 4 minutes. Give me just one moment because I have to get a position set up really quick to be sold. Okay, and let's go through our dated positions really quick. Now, just a reminder, I don't have a lot of time to stream today. I do have an appointment at my daughter's school. So let's go over this. So for ELF, they had a super good earnings last night, but this still doesn't really change a whole lot about our positioning. We did target, let's see this for our time frame. Yeah, that looks right. We did target around that 86 range, so basically it is $3 above where we targeted. Still nothing crazy though in terms of the mean reversion. If anything, it just kind of adds to what we're looking for. That push above the upper Bollinger on both the weekly and daily time frame are fully kind of anticipated. We're at that level. I think our positions are going to do just fine. Okay, our puts are dated out for October, so I wouldn't be trying to sell those or anything. If anything, we can add to those. If you want to add to them, you can. Now, our next one, GameStop here, kind of same conditions. Not really anticipating it falling too much further at this point before we get that upside. I'm not going to add to the calls here, just because GameStop really isn't a great company for me. I'm more just playing it for the technical bounce, which we should be seeing. I'm not really too concerned about that. Even on the daily time frame, we do see that the selling volume has dramatically dropped. So I am expecting that bounce to occur. Now for HIMS, still just continue the push upward. Now there is the concern that, well, maybe we're getting a rejection at this 20 mall. That could be the case. Alright, and if that's the case, then we would head back down to the lower Bollinger. I don't think that's going to be the case though. I do think that we'll actually get a bounce back up to the upper Bollinger on the weekly, because we are seeing a tapering in the selling here rather than a tapering in the buying. The buying has still been very good, even though we're still down basically $1.20 from the top. Now, Johnson & Johnson. We do have to be a little concerned that this can be forming this cup and handle. So that is a little concerning. This was not taken on a super mean reversion down to the downside. So by all technicals, we can see that bounce to the upside. Now, Lidios has just been absolutely crushing it. They did super good with their earnings, and they did push to that 20 mall on the weekly. So technically they still can push quite a bit upward. I'm not really anticipating it, but it wouldn't be completely out of the picture either, because there's been massive selling for weeks and weeks and weeks. Well, months and months, excuse me. But if we do start to see the tapering and buying, we should get our price action to the downside pretty easily. Now, Merck & Company, still same thesis here. It's just going to take time to push down to our strike. I'm not really worried about them buying back upward or anything at this point. There is technically that potential for the cup and handle, but even then, we could pull all the way back up to the upper Bollinger on the daily, but our weekly is still showing weakness, so I'm not too concerned about that just yet. Now, Microsoft, let's see, we started shorting basically at that 490 range, or the 498. Still just tapering to the downside. I'm still fully expecting us to have our push to the, or push downward. Nothing's really changed in terms of that. Technically, our MSFU puts are still up. So, looking good. All of our dated positions are looking fine right now. Now, let's go back to the SPY. I want to see if the gamma has been updated. So, 1 second. Nope, call wall still at the 772. Put wall still at that 771. Yeah, we should be holding the ELF puts for sure. I'm considering adding more at this point. But overall, I still think the position is very, very good. So I'm just looking at a couple things here. Okay, I want to check the dollar really quick. Dollar has been pulling up on the day. VVIX is at the 90.41. It did open at the 90.89. Now, one thing I would add to your watch list is some form of gold position. So whether it's the ETF, the futures, or like GDXW, GDXY, something like that. We've been seeing kind of a major trend right now where gold's been running really, really hard ever since the uh, carry trade has been, I don't want to call it the carry trade right now, but ever since the yen has been seeing interventions, um, we have been seeing gold run extremely, extremely hard. We missed the opportunity to really buy into the bottom of it, but it's still something to pay attention to because if you do see that running again, potentially that can be alluding to equities pulling downward. So I'm going to add to our list instead of the AppLovin contracts, I want to add APX shares. Because that's what I'm going to do as of tomorrow. I'm not going to take those today. That is a tomorrow position. I'm just waiting to see if our gamma updates. Because I don't think that the put wall is going to remain that high. Unless we're just going to see it bounce on the day. Now, in terms of the SPY, we could be seeing this push to the upside. We do have the call wall at that 772 currently. Put wall at the 771. Volatility has been pushing downward, so it's at 90.03. And let's check what our HIG is doing right now. So the HIG opened at 79.51, did drop down all the way to the 79.44, currently at the 79.51, or 79.46, excuse me. Yeah, AppLovin had earnings yesterday, and Zillow, glad you brought that up because I've been looking at this for a long time now. Excuse me, not trying to yawn in your ears. Still not below our range. Could be a good equity buy. Something just to tack in a couple positions into. So as long as the gamma doesn't change, which, so far hasn't, but still super early in the trading day, very likely it will shift. We could pull above this range, kind of same thesis as always. Pull above the call wall, sell high AV calls, then head back downward. Very likely close in between. Now on the 5-minute time frame, we're above the upper Bollinger, so that could be, kind of alluding to a push to the downside. Not really seeing those signals yet though too much. Volatility is somewhat elevated compared to the last few trading sessions though. I think the VVIX was at the 86 or something at one point. Now if we do start pushing down, with the put wall currently at the 771, which again I really don't anticipate it to be sitting there for very long today, then we could be pushing into that range below it, working on selling high V puts, and then pushing upward. Kind of the exact same thesis for the call wall, just opposite direction. Good morning. Good job, Jin. Sorry, just looking at a ton of positions right now. So those APPX shares should be pretty solid to start entering, even if you just do it slowly. Trying to figure out what's going on with ACN because it pulled down all the way to the 157 this morning and shot right back up to the 166. And I want to go ahead and check our gamma again on the SPY. Oh, still have the call on put wall at that same spot. So if the gamma levels don't shift today, then we should be seeing a pretty choppy session. And our volatility is pulling down a little bit. It's at the 89.95. But let's go ahead and check the HIG. It is at 79.48, so it was at that 79.46. So that is starting to pull up a little bit. We do see semiconductors barely in the green right now. Oh, right as I say that, it starts dropping off. Never mind. But we did basically push that support at the 70 or 769.52. Seeing a little bounce off of that, but if the market wants to really sell today, they'll try to break that level. We do see our ADL pulling down slightly. Good morning, Wonders. I don't have a whole lot of time to stream today, unfortunately, though. I do have an appointment at my daughter's school in about an hour. I did originally plan to stream for a large, majority of today, but had to make that appointment. So I'm gonna take a starter position on APPX here. And I'll put it for 1528. And we'll try 100 shares. See if we get our price to hit. Alright, so I'm going to update that on the screen really quick. They haven't bought just yet, but that is what I'm looking for. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so my order did get filled. Now, before the earnings, I think this ETF was at the 2772. So basically a whole, $12, $13 to the upside. And if it's lower tomorrow, then I'll just add into it. Really tempted to add more puts into the elf puts. Let me check the gamma again and see if it's shifted. It's really weird that it's sitting right at the 772 for the call wall and then the 771 for the put wall. Volatility did drop below that 89 range, but now it's back at the 9009. So a little volatility's picking back up. Not a lot yet, but a little bit. He gets back down to the 79.46. And we did see that mean reversion from the upper Bollinger so far. Now, oil's a little elevated today. Haven't really been keeping up to date with what's going on in Iran over the last basically 12 hours. Looks to be the same thing though. We are seeing the ADL starting to drop, which can be a little concerning. Just have to be super careful because right now this is kind of like the area of our trading day until we see the gamma shift. So could they just be selling puts right now for high IV and then getting ready to push upward? I think the potential is, fairly high right now. So yeah, nothing much until we see the gamma shift. Volatility is pulling back down again. So it's back down to the 89.65. Personally, I'd be very hesitant to take any position right now. Let's look at semis. Sorry for the screen being red. Basically bounced right off of that support at that 1566, give or take. Yeah, so that means semis are actually up quite a lot right now. Basically a whole $15. Let's check QQQ. Yeah, QQQ is actually up quite a lot this morning as well. It did have a low of the 708.50. Currently at 716, so up a whole $8. Based on the volatility and everything, I'd really expect this push above the 772. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's either the days are super slow or they're just absolutely bonkers. Makes it really hard. Sort of like when we were in the Biden market. Um, the market was super predictable, where you could just trade from like the upper Bollinger down to the lower Bollinger, rinse repeat, no problem, no questions asked, no issues, no tweets, no nothing. But we do have the midterms coming up fairly soon here, which that will definitely bring some volatility into the market. Volatility is still pushing down. We're at the 89.52, creating a little bit of a cup here, which can lead to a breakout. We're seeing our ADL shift back upward. So it's very unlikely we're going to push above that call wall here. I've been checking the gamma pretty much every 5 minutes. Still no shift yet. Do have semiconductors pretty heavily in the green right now compared to the low of the day. Now if the gamma doesn't shift at all, I would expect that push to basically that 772, 773. We do have some resistances we can target in here. So I'll go ahead and start marking those out. No point in that one. That's basically right at that 772. Another one at that 772.25. VVIX still pushing down, so our volatility is still telling us that we should be seeing this upside buying, even if it's just a little bit. The ADL is looking very, very nice so far. And we are seeing the HIG at the 79.49, so almost pulling back up to that 79.50. Call wall and put wall has not moved. Now we did close that cup here. Kind of have some bullish structure to look at is that we do have this cup, do have the handle, could potentially be forming a nested handle and then heading upward. Volatility is still sitting at the 89.47. So no major shifts yet. The only thing we're really seeing on the day so far is just semis going crazy. Because they are basically up like $25, something like that. Let's look at Google. Yeah, it had a pretty hard dump, um, but still pushed pretty high too. I'm still mad at Google. I was getting ready to buy this at 147, and it moved up that day, and I just never got the chance to buy back in. But yeah, for Google, even though it does look a little bearish right now, I think that they're going to be absolutely fine. You have this cup formed here. Can absolutely start heading back upward. Might need to pull down to that or to that 348, which is going to, you know, be seeing some red days due to that, but outside of that, it looks pretty good. It's not anything I'd want to take a position on just yet, though. Volatility is still pushing down pretty hard. It's at 89.22. So that should give us that range where we push above the 772 here. See, I don't like days like this where you have semiconductors or tech moving very hard, but SPY is basically not moving at all. Because it's like QQQ's gotten a, what, $11 move to the upside, something like that right now. $10 move to the upside. Semis have gotten roughly a $25, $26 move to the upside. SPY's moved up basically like $2. So definitely a little misleading when that happens. Yeah, I'd be super hesitant to be trading the SPY today. Volatility at the 89.33. It was at that 89.20. Doesn't matter a whole lot. Let me go ahead and check the gamma again. I don't think anything's shifted though. Yeah, still the same call wall and put wall. So SPY might be a super choppy day today in terms of just basically, again, chopping kind of around that range. Now we do have really important data tomorrow, so that might be part of it. Tomorrow we have the non-farm payrolls, we have the unemployment rate, the participation rate, all that good stuff. But luckily for us, that all comes out in the pre-market, so we'll have a pretty good understanding of what's going to happen within the trading session. But this price action on SPY is putting me to sleep. It's just not moving at all. Yeah, gold is doing super well. I haven't checked silver lately, but I'm sure it's very likely following in its footsteps. But gold has been just absolutely blasting. My GDXW positions I got at the 33 something. I think we're at 39 right now. Yeah, 39 cent 37. Here we go. Here's some selling. Still probably won't take us anywhere though. Again, the call and put wall create a really tight range on the day. So unless we're going to see this put wall shift to the downside, then I don't really have a whole lot of expectations of the selling going very far. Volatility didn't even jump on that at all. Still at 89.42. Now QQQ is back in the red. Not by a whole lot, but it is back in the red. Semis still need to drop like 20 something dollars to go back into the red. The HIG is still holding strong. It's at the 79.48. 79.49. So even though it's not usually in my call taking range, this could potentially be a nice call opportunity. Because again, we do have that cup formed. Not really seeing heavy selling just yet. do have the ADL pulling down quite a bit though. Volatility barely climbing on this. It's basically climbed like 7 cents, which to me shows that dealers aren't really buying this selling either. Sorry, my wife had to leave. Volatility is slowly climbing, so it's at 89.64 now. Hold on 1 second, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry about that. So I think I said the volatility was at 89.60. It's currently at 89.59. HIG is still looking strong. It's at the 79.49. HIG's still pulling upward. So this can be creating that call opportunity. The call and put walls still haven't shifted. And volatility is pulling back down again slightly, so it's at that 89.46. So really could be a decent call opportunity here. With straight calls, I'd probably target that 771, 772. Haven't checked the premiums on them yet, but I'm sure they're pretty reasonable. And I don't have time to trade them today either. I have to go in a few minutes here. Again, I do have an appointment with my daughter's school, so not going to be able to stream a whole ton today, unfortunately. We'll be streaming a lot tomorrow though. Unless the price action is just super, super boring and puts me to sleep again. I think the 773 would be okay. Because again, with this call wall at the 772, that's, really, really, really heavily alluding to pushing up above that range. And we haven't really been seeing strong selling signals just yet. Even with us pushing downward, our volatility has been dropping with it. We've been seeing the HIG buying upward. So until we see those, massively shift to one way or the other, then so far it's saying that the market wants to head up. Kind of mad at my ACN positions right now. I had a whole ton of 160 strike puts that were in the money this morning, and it pretty much instantly shot up from that 157 all the way to 166, which has knocked those puts from in the money to now out of the money, which is kind of a bummer. Was up quite a bit. Just not seeing strong selling signals right now. Especially because we did basically buy up this support. It's like, yes, we pushed underneath it very slightly, but when we target supports, it's not to the penny usually, it's usually the entire range. So this could be buying up pretty heavily today. Just have to be cautious because, again, we haven't seen these call walls or put walls shift at all. Still have the call wall at the 772, put wall at the 771. Which could be, basically a super, super tight range day. We see QQQ back in the green. Semi is still buying to the upside. RADL might look like a mess, but it has been pulling up quite a bit. Even during all that selling, our volatility didn't really move up very much at all, and is currently at the 89.42. So unless we start seeing some, pretty big signals that we're going to be seeing selling, then I think the call side is, going to be pretty strong here. There's a little selling going on in QQQ and semis. Semis just dropped $3. QQQ just dropped $1.50. Still not seeing our volatility react to this whatsoever. Okay, so I do need to go in 7 minutes here. If anybody has any questions about any symbols, anything, I'll be more than happy to go over it. But you kind of know my outlook on the day. I do think that today is going to end up buying up at least to that 772, potentially 773. We haven't really seen strong signals of selling just yet. Our volatility has been dropping while this selling has been occurring, which means that dealers are not hedging positions. If dealers are not hedging positions, then, very likely they're wanting to basically either keep this butterfly, basically trading within the exact same, or keeping it, range bound, or they plan to buy it upward. And same with the HIG. The HIG has been pretty much buying up for the majority of the day. It did drop to the 79.44 earlier. It's currently at the 79.48. Or as I say that, drops down to 79.47. So unless we start seeing those really shift, I'd be more inclined on the upside. But the other thing we have to be concerned about as well is that semiconductors basically did just move $25 to the upside. QQQ moved a whole $10 to the upside, while the SPY only moved basically like $1.50. So if QQQ and semis decide to lose some of that weight, then we could be having a major push to the downside. But that's not being reflected within the HIG, that's not being reflected within our volatility just yet. So again, I still lean a lot more towards buying the dip type of day. Especially if we build support here. If we build support right here, then that would still leave that bottom of the cup to continue pushing upward. Which would make a really nice cup and handle. Volatility is still dropping while this is occurring. The gamma hasn't moved at all just yet. So yeah, I'm still leaning towards that 772, 773-ish range. I want to check where the daily 5 mile is at though. So one moment. It's at that 763, which is a little higher than I anticipated. Doesn't really shift anything within our focus right now though. HIG back up to the 79.48. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this doesn't push to the 772 plus. Let's see. How's HIMS looking? Let me make sure there's no news going against it. So, HIMS still looks fine. Now, there is this potential large head and shoulders forming on it, but we'd kind of see the outcome of that today. Still looks good to me though. Again, we just have to be concerned about that. We are on the daily 20 mile or underneath it, and on the weekly, we're above the weekly 20 mile. So, if we're going to see a shift to the downside, then, HIMS can push down to the weekly lower Bollinger, which I really don't think that's occurring just yet. And then for the daily, that'd be a pushback down to the lower Bollinger, but I'm still not expecting that. I'm expecting it to push towards the upper Bollinger at this point. Alright, everybody, unless there's any final questions, I gotta get going because I do got that appointment in 15 minutes. Now, I did take APPX shares today. I will be adding to those very likely tomorrow as well. Alright, everybody, I'll be streaming tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning stream will be a lot longer. I don't have any appointments tomorrow, so. With that said, I hope everyone has a great trading session. I'll be back in the chat later today in like Discord, so we'll see if we get our 772 plus. But just to really check everything really quick, volatility still pushing downward on the day, so it's at 89.05. Remember that did pull up all the way to the 90 something. And our HIG is still at the 79.48. So I do think that the upside is looking a lot, a lot better than the downside today. That can change very quickly though. But so far dealers are telling us that very likely we're going to see a push above that call wall. So, okay everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in tomorrow's stream. Take care, have a safe trading day, and thanks for watching.